Good morning, everyone. I'm Veena Raizada here on behalf of Super Teacher, going to conduct this session on decluttering the new examination pattern as released by CBSE. And Super Teacher has already been doing sessions on this, and Vasudev Natarajan of ours, the proficient trainer, has already done, I think, 3 sessions wherein we have talked about the specialization with respect to maths and science. Today, I am here to continue his work of taking this pattern sharing, whatever CBSE has done with respect to languages and social sciences with certain examples. However, in the beginning, we are going to talk about how CBSE has introduced this new initiative. What does it mean? What is competency-based education? How are the examinations going to be conducted? So very, very happy Sunday morning to all of you. Very happy Raksha Bandhan. May the bonds of love, not only between siblings, brothers and sisters that we talk about, but among all of us be stronger, growing stronger. May we have hearts full of sensitivity, love and togetherness for each other. So wish you all happiness of greetings of this day. Look at Super Teacher had a session even on 15th August and even on this. So all days are working days, sharing learning days by the Super Teacher. And I am here on behalf of Super Teacher to do this session for you all today. And I have the pleasure of sharing with you the CBSE initiative specifically related to class 10, the new pattern of examination that has been released in July 2021. Hope this time of 1 hour that you're going to spend with us is definitely going to be a fruitful one for all of you, and it is worth the time of all of you being here with all of us. As you have seen in the last 2 or 3 sessions with Vasudev also, what Super Teacher is sharing with all of you is constructive thing that you take away from here to be implemented directly into your classroom. So hats off to Super Teacher team that is led by Bhanu the Great and many trainers and the support systems who are doing this tirelessly, continuously with everything new that comes up. Super Teacher is there to empower the upskill the teachers for that. You talk about Mission eGuru that they launched last year. They talk of augmented reality, virtual reality, coding, and now this new examination pattern where we are talking about even the course being launched from the next week that you will get to know the details during this day. So very happy morning and warm morning to all of you. And here I start with what I have to share with you regarding the competency-based assessment system that has been introduced. So when you talk of assessment of any educational system, I'm sure we have to know a little bit about the core curriculum that the system follows and the pedagogy that we have to imbibe in order to have the assessments in alignment with that. That is why all of you must have seen NEP has given special emphasis on how the curriculum is being redefined as per the NEP expectation, how we are talking about only the core curriculum, how the dependency on textbooks is being reduced, how the focus on knowledge, skills, application, and Bloom's taxonomy is being brought into the system, higher order thinking skills are brought into the system. The whole 360-degree review of the assessment is also being brought into the system, how SUFFLE is being implemented, how self-assessment and peer assessments are being introduced. That is what is the essence of this. So going straight away to share my screen here with all of you. Very happy morning. Once again, warm morning and happy learning times to all of us together. As I shared with all of you, Super Teacher. I hope you're all able to see my screen. Hello?
No, ma'am.
Why the sharing your screen is there? Sairam. Okay. Let me check it out once again. This technology can always hold us. Okay. Now? Is it there now?
Yeah, now it is being shared, ma'am. Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, perfectly fine. So is highlighting the super teacher who is doing a lot of work to empower teachers and how they are all passionate, each one of them, for that. So today's session, decluttering the special scheme of CBSE examination pattern 2021-22 for grade 10. What CBSE has introduced, I've tried to put that the context of all the CBSE circulars and examinations into presentation form for all of you to understand it easily and comfortably. So academic session 21-22 for grade 10, how it talks about two terms, term 1 examination and term 2 examination. How term 1 is focusing upon mark system, and when it is going to be held is November, December 21, and term 2 will be held in March, April 2022. The marks that we are being allotted for the first term, syllabus is 50%, and here also the syllabus. How the syllabus has been reduced. Super teacher has done a fabulous job for sharing with all of you the documents of science and maths in the last two sessions, how it has been marked with what is been removed, what is being promoted, and what is essential for us, all of us, to do it as conceptual knowledge. Syllabus will be rationalized by CBSE, which has already been done. It is on the CBSE website. You can go for that, look for the term-wise syllabus even on the website, right? Okay. How the internal assessments are being defined in the new examination system, that also I would be sharing through this, and how the efforts will be made to make internal assessments more credible and valid as per the guidelines and moderations announced by the CBSE to ensure fair distribution of marks. Because when it comes to school-based assessments, we always have an issue with that. We've had it. So how CBSE is going to moderate that and lay down guidelines for all of them? They are so specifically clear this time into the plan that has been released, right? Okay. Term 1, that is 50 marks and 40 plus 10. 40 is the theoretical concept that will be focused, and how 10 marks are being allotted in each term to internal assessment. The first one is MCQ based board examination. Marks are for 20 and time is for 90 minutes as per the rationalized syllabus that has been released for term 1 by the CBSE. When you talk of internal assessments, they are for 10 marks, and how internal assessments are being again distribution into periodic tests, into portfolios, into subject enrichment activities, into project work, especially for social science subject, that also has been defined by CBSE. This time CBSE has been really very particular about ensuring that all clarities have been issued in this, and they are continuously doing it. When you talk about term 2, again it is for 50 marks, and once again it is 40 plus 10, and once again we have the formats that are being introduced for the second term examination. They are case based, situation based. I mean, you really have to understand what kind of explanation and expectations CBSE has laid down for the students' learning outcomes. Open-ended, short answer, long answer questions. The marks would be for 40 and time will be 2 hours. Rationalized syllabus again for term 2 as given on the CBSE website will be used. And internal assessments, once again they are 10 marks. So in the whole academic year, the internal assessment weightage is 20 marks that is going to be counted wholly as the compiled report card of the student would be created. Any questions up till now that I've shared with all of you, you can put it down in the chat, and I'm sure super teacher team would be answering those questions, or I'll take it up towards the end. Okay. Marks of term 1 and 2 examination would contribute to the final overall score. So each term is important. So continuity of learning outcomes, learning objectives, teaching, learning assessment has to be maintained by the schools, the academic heads and the teachers. That is something very important in this competency based education emphasized by NEP 2020. When you talk about the November, December 21 examination, the Board will be organizing this first term examination in a flexible time period. It will be 4 to 8 weeks. So school will have an option for that, how to conduct it. Dates for conduct of examinations will be notified subsequently. It will have multiple choice questions. Now there is an emphasis on multiple choice questions. Now how MCQs empower us as the teachers to create that kind of assessment which will be assessing the higher order thinking skills of the questions and ensuring that content, knowledge, skills, application, analysis, synthesis, creation, reasoning, problem solving, critical thinking, creative thinking is focused in those questions. That is why framing of MCQs that assess the competency-based assessment of the content taught is a crucial part of NEP 2020. And Super Teacher has already planned that program to be launched soon. Please wait for the announcements by the Super Teacher to upskill the teachers that how do you frame competency-based assessment? How do you create case-based study questions? How do you have assertion and reasoning type of questions as a part of your assessments? That is the most important part of this program that we are focusing upon. The duration of the test will be 90 minutes. I'm sure most of you must have attended the webinars by CBSE too. Only the rationalized syllabus. So it is very important for all of you to look into the syllabus released on the CBSE website side document to understand that which parts are must, and especially for social science you will look into that how geography has been reduced only to marking of the maps in certain specific areas only. So go back to the document. I have that document towards the end. I will also share the link if you would like to have that. So that is how the rationalized syllabus, the curriculum that you have in your hand needs to be looked at in order to have competency-based assessments. So content curriculum part that makes a part of competency-based education is one of the important processes that has been a part of NEP 2020, and we as academic heads and trainers or some school heads or academic heads or even subject teachers need to take care of that. Which part of the content has been removed? Which part of the content has a weightage that is written? Even the number of periods to be taught are written in that syllabus curriculum, if you have had a look at that. Then question papers will be coming to you, and how do you have those being used? That all guidelines will be shared with all of you. The exams will be conducted under the supervision of superintendents, which we have been doing because I come from a school background only. However, how OMR sheets would be used by the students in the MCQ, that you probably need to prepare your students for, because we are preparing the students not only for this examination, but for future jobs, what for future skills, what for future competencies. The final direction will be, of course, coming from the examination unit. The most important part is the marks of the term one examination will contribute to the final score of the student. How much weightage? That will depend upon whether there is a lockdown, no lockdown, lockdown in the first term, no lockdown in the second term. So all kinds. CBSE has ensured that whatsoever may happen this time, there is no going to be promotion like we have had this year. So next year for sure they are going to be examination both in term 1 and term 2. Whether there is a lockdown in first term or second term or both the terms the school are open, all options have been shared by the CBSE teachers, heads. Therefore we need to be very careful about that, how competency based education curriculum, the pedagogy and assessments need to be introduced into our school systems right from now onwards, right? How the examination for second term will be going on, that will be around March, April 2022, and then it will be 2-hour duration that we've always talked about, what kind of questions. And in case the situation is not conducive, then what will happen? 90 minutes MCQ examination will be conducted at the end of term 2 only. So when you by looking at these statements and guidelines, all of you can realize that how much is the importance of learning how to frame competency-based assessment, how to frame MCQ questions which are based on higher order thinking skills, how to frame questions or assessments continuously as formative or diagnostic or remedial ones, that the students get hold of the higher order thinking skills, higher order skills that we are talking about, even 21st century skills, critical thinking, creative thinking, logical reasoning, problem solving, justifying the answer that you have given. Again, the marks of term 2 will be contributing to the final score of this. Now, the various situations, they have all been defined, that how the weightage term will be given. So if there is a school exam, if there is no exam, how the theory marks will be distributed. Second one, again, the situation has been given, that how term 1, term 2 will be given a weightage. So when either of them is happening at home, the weightage would be reduced. And the one happens in the school on face-to-face physically, there the weightage would be increased. That is the crux of all these situations. Then you have another situation. So all these situations have already been mentioned. So how careful we have to be that this year, academic session 21-22 for sure is going to be an year where teaching, learning and assessment will sure be maintained. Assessments will be done, whether there is a lockdown, no lockdown, or there is a lockdown in the first term or in the second term, or both of them are in lockdown. So every possible situation has been considered by CBSE, and that gives us the clarity that how firm and clear the board is on this system of evaluation and implementation of this system. Whatsoever will be done, the data analysis of marks of students would be undertaken to ensure the integrity of the internal assessments and home-based assessments. So the assessments are data-driven. There are no excuses this time. Let's be very clear about that concept, that there are no excuses on assessments, teaching, learning processes this time for sure. Throughout the year, there will be 3 periodic tests for internal assessment. So how internal assessments are structured for 10 marks in each term. Periodic assessments, multiple assessments, subject enrichment activities, and portfolio. The first digits are for the first term, the second digits are for the second term. However, social studies subject enrichment activities corresponds to a project work to be done by the students, which I would be sharing when I'm talking about the social science particularly. And how the languages, marks, and weightage are being, distribution is being done by the CBSE, that also will be shared. So how internal assessments are being so specific, not only by marks wise, but what all should be done in them. It cannot be just one paper test and all that. You can do multiple tests. The best of 3 would be taken out, best of 2. I think internal assessment, both will contribute equally to overall assessment. So 3 periodic tests are being taken. How do you take, what do you take? That details are also given in the document if you would like to read about that. So this is the structure of internal assessments for 10 marks in the first term and in the second term. The first, when I say 3 plus 2, the first term is 3 and the second term is 2. So all these, and special emphasis on project work in social science has been given as the subject enrichment activities. CBSE has even laid down and shared the topics on which the project would be done, if you have read the document. What is the purpose of periodic assessment? It is probably, I'm sure we all understand that how CC had the formative assessments as a part of regular teaching learning process, because the learning gaps need to be understood by the teachers. How do I bridge the learning gap? So reflection on the assessments, reflection on the performance of students, reflections upon difference, the gap between learning of objectives that I had set in the beginning and learning outcomes that I am assessing. And for your information, NCRT documents are already there on the NCRT website for learning outcomes for elementary classes, senior secondary, and secondary classes. You got to look at those documents where each content has been associated with the expected learning outcome. So clarity this time with the kinds of documents are being released, when the kinds of information is being released by CBSE and NCRT, that is amazing to see that there has to be no scope for any confusion or ambiguity. So get to the websites if you have any questions, get to Super Teacher if you have any clarifications to be done. They're all ready to help you out. Periodic tests would be restricted to 3 in each subject in a year, but that doesn't mean you take 3 only, like we had the option in CC also. You can take the best, as many tests as you want, depending upon when you want to take, because there has to be a purpose of assessment. Test is to be not to be taken just because I have to take a test. So there has to be clear objective of taking a test. When do you want to take it? Why do you want to take it? How do you want to take it? Is it task-based? Is it performance-based? Is it written test? Is hands-on learning? Is experiential learning? What exactly you're looking for? So clarity to that extent is required in each and every step. This time, every doc has an explanation that ones need to be reading and reading all over again and again to be very clear about that. Multiple assessments strategies are to be used, and they are like you use oral tests, individual work, group work, class discussion, concept maps, graphic organizers, visual thinking strategies, visual thinking routines, audio visual aids, tech enabled education. Everything is being talked about in MEP 2020. So that is how you have to use multiple and diverse techniques to assess learners' outcomes. Why do we need to do that? So that we can find out the learning gaps to help the students bridge those gaps by remediation, by giving them extra support. So alternative modes of assessments as per the subject and context. There is one thing that has been very specifically mentioned, that when you have to take a remedial class, it has to be very specific, where the conceptual misunderstanding is there by the student. So how much is the analysis of your test result required? Because remediation is focused upon which skills the child is not having a proper level. So in every subject, the context of remediation and assessment and learning gap needs to be connected. You just don't have to take a retest just to pass the student like we had it earlier. That is not going to work this time. So you will have to know test किसका लेना है, किस पोर्शन का लेना है, किस स्किल का लेना है, किस लर्निंग आउटकम का जिसमें स्टूडेंट ने नहीं किया है वो लेना है. So the analysis of your assessments, which once again data analysis super teacher is very good. They did the mock test of class 10 science and math, and how they have done the analysis of the test paper that they conducted. You really have to learn from them the report, or maybe it is there on their website, to understand that how much are the learning gaps of the students. So how do you have subject enrichment activities? पर्पस वही है जी, सब समझ में आना चाहिए, इन डेप्थ अंडरस्टैंडिंग बच्चे को कॉन्सेप्ट की है या नहीं, बच्चा नेक्स्ट लेवल पे वो अप्लाई कर सकता है या नहीं, अगर क्वेश्चन रीफ्रेम किया तो वो कर सकता है नहीं. स्पेशली इन लैंग्वेजेस दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट हाउ डू यू टॉक अबाउट एक्सप्लोरिंग द कॉन्टेक्स्ट बियॉन्ड द टेक्स्ट बुक्स आल्सो. So one has to be, at this time, I'm sure the clarity of guidelines from the CBSE, from the NCRT, and the continuity of webinars that the CBSE is doing in order to make the people understand that what is expected of them. That is so clear that one has to be reading and continuously on toes on learning that is relevant and unlearning that is not required. Languages, again, this is suggestions for enrichment activities. The main important thing is that how a assessment in listening and speaking skills. It is actually ASL, assessment in speaking and listening skills, has to be a regular process of development of language. How art integrated projects are to be part of any subject enrichment activities. Role play, dramatization, how do you use all of them as an art? How do you use comic strips for art integrated projects? That is what is going to be very, very important. So teachers, really, you all have to be on toes in order to understand what exactly. And Super Teacher is doing those 4 days program, totally focused on competency-based education. I think it is being launched from 30th of August. You can check it out with their Super Teacher team out there. And that is completely focusing upon how do you prepare yourself? How do you upskill yourself for the competency-based assessments? Once you learn that process, probably will have the connection to how do I teach the concepts now in the classrooms? What methods do I use in order to deliver the content to have the expected learning outcomes? Science and mathematics is all have to be investigatory spirit, because NEP 2020 talks about scientific temper. So how do we have the simple course like a cycle of experiential learning to be followed, or simple model of I do, you do, we do, in whichever format you can do it, I, you, we, you, I. How do you give the students an experience of learning? How do you connect these subjects vertically up? So intradisciplinary. How do you connect the subjects horizontally, interdisciplinary? So how do you have interdisciplinary and interdisciplinary pedagogy as a part of your curriculum teaching? That is also a part of NEP 2020. So how do you put the children in the exploring mode? So when you have some sessions with me next time when we are in Super Teachers Launch, I would really love to show you certain activities, the simplest one, but how they can be turned into an investigatory spirit for right from lower to higher classes. Social science, which we are supposed to be focusing on, so with certain examples to illustrate with you the competency-based assessment. The main important part is the project work for 5 marks in the whole academic session. The details are given in the book or the CBSE circular also. However, it's more talks about art integration, exploring ideas. I'm sure in Mission eGuru, the program done by, again, Super Teacher, you might have learned about the Google Earth. And I'm sure even in Nearpod, many of us must be remembering that experience with Vasudev Natarajan, taking you to Eiffel Tower, taking you to Agra and doing the project. So how do you use the Google Earth for social science? How do you use the Nearpod activities embedded into them as virtual reality also into the social science? They can be done in any other subjects also, but we are talking about social science today. So I'm focusing on particular thing which Super Teacher has already been doing. So it is something I'm sure, at least I am very proud of being part of this youngster team, because they're really working hard to impart the upskilling, empowering of teachers to keep updated with the latest system of education, learning, assessments, whatever is coming up. Now, compulsory project, this is especially for the social science teachers who have joined today. There is a compulsory project by every student, and topics are consumer awareness, social issues, or sustainable development. They are already being given by CBSE. So please remember that. What are the objectives? Again, they are mentioned on that. How do you have a practical understanding of the concepts of social science related to what you have learned and as related to the real world outside? How do you have interdisciplinary perspective that I was talking to you? How does it help in enhancing the life skills? And how does social science concepts get an application of in that project? That is the purpose of doing the project. Students can do whatever they want. They can collect data, analysis, different forms of art, but How the whole thing would be assessed once you submit that project, that also has been defined by the CBSE. So you can look at the assessment criteria. So rubrics are also marks, everything is given. So you do not have an excuse of saying that कि हमें नहीं पता था, हम नहीं कर सकते हैं. So everybody has to be very vigilant about what is going on everywhere. And how the summary report has to be prepared at the end of the project, that is also been mentioned, that teacher has to have the record of all that stuff. So this is evidence of what you have done. Everywhere I have mentioned the circular name or the PDF at the footnote of my slide. So if you are looking at that, you can always have a look at that it is. Then one very important thing is of internal assessment is portfolio. This was also a part of CC when we were doing it long time back, then CC was introduced as a part of it. But what is a portfolio? Is a product or a process? The whole thing I would like to sum up in a small acronym that has been shared by somebody. So what does P stand for? So portfolio is either a process or a product. Product at the end of the session, process during the whole process or the whole year, what you are doing. As a class teacher of some school, when I started my teaching learning process way back in 1977, I can tell you we used to maintain the dossiers of students, manual dossiers करते थे. अगर कोई बच्चा क्लास 1 से लेकर 12 तो उस बच्चे का इतना मोटा वाला डोजियर उसको एंड में दिया था, पूरे हर साल की एक्टिविटीज उसमें हम पिन अप करते थे और वो डोजियर फिर नेक्स्ट क्लास टीचर को हैंड ओवर करते हैं. सो हाउ अ पर्सनालिटी ऑफ ए चाइल्ड, वर्क ऑफ ए चाइल्ड विल बी totally recorded, and at the end of every session how it will be transferred to the next class teacher. So that is what a portfolio is. Nowadays, of course, you have the option of even doing e-portfolios, which are also called as the CVs that we submit for their even job requirements. So this is one slide that explains the whole concept of portfolio. Specific terms that have been used in each section for examination test design. One, I'm sure all of you must have attended the CBSE webinar, that there will be no internal choice, but it will be within the section only. So if you are supposed to attempt 20 MCQ questions in one section, there will be 25. And imagine only the first 20 that you do right will be tested, will be marked. So how you have to train your students to keep on attempting and just not get stuck on anything. So how does a child attempt a question paper will be another issue that we need to train our students upon. How MCQs will be on different levels. Simple का होगा, complex का होगा और assertion reasoning type का होगा. So इसलिए तो हमें सीखना पड़ेगा ना, फिर वो कैसे बनेगा? One has to learn about it. So all MCQs will have 4 options. Now what kind of options should we give? Is none of the above, all of the above, negative statements are part of these. ये सब सीखना पड़ेगा. उसके लिए probably you can get with either a super teacher or wherever you think you can learn from, but definitely this needs to be learned because we have not been used to it. So how are you going to have the learning of MCQs which are relevant is another issue. What does competency-based learning has is 2 main points. Students should meet learning expectation and students should demonstrate what they know. The 2 main points. Demonstration means mastery of knowledge, skills, abilities. Then mastery means what? Demonstration of skills and content. Pacing मतलब student-centric है. Student अपनी pace पर कर सकता है. Instruction, customized support मिलना पड़ेगा student को so that they can have the teachers will need to learn about Bloom's taxonomy and even higher order thinking skills plus the 21st century skills, right? How the curriculum planning has to be done. How there has to be greater transparency in learning objectives, how students have to advance upon mastery. All these are details of competency-based education. How the assessments are related. This is what are the main pointers of that. They should demonstrate HOTS. They are data-driven. They should be assessment designs. They should be real-world context. And they should be synoptic assessments, synopsis of everything that you are doing, and it should be uniformly applicable all across the age groups, right? So there's equality of opportunity that is being emphasized and promoted by NEP 2020. Now, this is the grade 10 science and maths cognitive domains, assessments, the process, and the learning outcomes that were shared by the CBSE for specific things. So imagine how clarity has been given to the levels that you are talking about, how learning outcomes and the weightage also has been emphasized. As you can see on the slide, that 50% is how 30, 10, 10 has been given to all of you, and how at the higher level easy wale ka 0% hai. So everything has to be higher level. The similar thing has been for the languages. So languages, reading unseen passage 10 marks, reading literature 20 marks, grammar is for 10 marks. Again, all this is from the CBSE webinars and CBSE documents that have been shared on the website. So please go and read detail or look over this recording of this. I'm sure this is on the Super Teachers YouTube channel too. Again and again, the previous ones also and these ones also, in order to have clarity of the concepts. How reading unseen passage, what kind of passage, even that has been defined. Reading literature may question based on extracts and text, how they will be used, even that has been defined. If you look at the sample papers that have been released by the CBSE on the CBSE website. However, how we can do practice with the students by making our own question paper, that remains a question to be addressed. So we will not do this for time being, we'll come back to this. So what are the advantages of using case studies, which has become a very specific thing, not only for languages, but for all other subjects. So what are the advantages of using case studies? These are the pointers. What are the challenges? Because how do we make case studies solutions, which are of description of a particular situation or a conflict issue which the students can relate to, and all of them have to be real world situations. Therefore, learning how to make competency based assessment is a task by all of us. Now here I'm going to do certain examples from languages so that we can just have an illustration of whatever we have talked about, that how language. So before I go for that, let me just stop sharing the screen and talk to all of you that the concept wise, are we all on the same page? Yes. Are the concepts of examination system, that how term 1, term 2 will be done, and how the internal assessments would be done, and how internal assessments are categorized into 4 different categories, how social science has a particular project work being given to the students for 5 months on specified topics, how languages, the reading skills and unseen passages are so specifically defined. Is that clear to everyone? Any questions on that? I think languages and social science, I have tried to clarify that whatever has been on the website and how it is to be translated as a communication to all of you. So I think the concept has been clear. Now we will go back to sharing certain examples for languages and 1 or 2 examples from social sciences. Let's hope we can do it. Can we use the, yes ma'am, Renu ma'am, it is the same pattern for 9th also. It is given on the website. If you go back to the system, it is exactly similar like that. Okay, right, so let's go back to sharing our PowerPoint once again. Okay, so I'm going to start with languages, where I've taken the reference of lesson 2, Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech. So this is a concept that even CBSE has used, but I have used the extract differently. So I'm sure all language teachers are aware of that. So how I have taken a particular, it's not in continuation. So certain parts have been picked up and put up there so that I could frame the question. That means you need to identify the content कि मुझे competency based बनाने के लिए question, क्या वो assertion type and reasoning type है, क्या वो MCQ knowledge type है, क्या वो MCQ application type है. मुझे content को isolate करना पड़ेगा, identify करना पड़ेगा कि इस content से मैं वो. So how much a teacher herself has to be clear about the content first. because as language teachers or others would read it, this extract that I'm showing to all of you is not at all in continuation. So I picked up the lines which made a sense for me in order to use the questions in the next part slides, right? So content identification for creating a specific type of MCQ question is another issue we got to learn. Okay, the guests at this spectacular ceremony are being called distinguished because they. Now, I'm sure answer all of you must be knowing, but what I want to focus upon that this is an easy level MCQ which falls in the category of 30%. The cognitive level, that is access and retrieve the information, read the passage and recall the information. Can you categorize that information and put it here? That is the idea. And assessment objective is ability to locate उस paragraph में वो है किधर and relate information from a given material. So when you are choosing an extract is one point, but what questions do you make and what kind of options do you give? That is a second point. Look at the next question. Now I have taken a different type of question. That was something related to locating the information and coming back to the conclusion that can you relate to what are the options. Now it is a victory for human dignity. Now what is the correct answer? The combination of three words that will represent what human dignity. I wish I could do interaction, but abhi time ke liye problem hai to isliye hum nahi kar pa rahe hain. But anyway, I'm sure you all know. So my idea is to tell you this is a medium level question. Part of 10%, the second category which CBSE talks about. And then cognitive level is ability to interact with the word vocabulary context. क्या मैं human dignity के साथ related words को ढूंढ पाता हूँ? Do I know the meanings of all the words that have been mentioned in the options? Do I have the understanding from the extract that I have taken that what does human dignity mean? So cognitive level is that, and the learning objective is that, assessment objective is that. So more important is with every question, where you are, what you are assessing, that will make a difference. And it is not that easy. I am not even an English specialist or social science specialist, but whatever I have made, I've read over and over again. And then only sharing it with you, discussed it with my experts in the subject areas too, that what I'm doing is right. So what comes to you is a patch of work which is compiled for us to understand that the necessity of upskilling ourselves to create competency-based questions. And especially because MCQ पे इतना emphasis है और MCQ case study से भी related है, knowledge से भी related है, application से भी related है. So how do I prepare myself for that? Okay, let's go to the next question. Now this is called as paraphrasing. कि आप एक portion में से देखिए उसके words को पूछ रहे थे कौन से उसमें fit हो सकते हैं. So how the child has to learn the put in the blanks. This is not fill in the blank. This is called as paraphrasing as by in the document that has been shared. So how desired, dawned, and depriving fit into the three, the combination, which one would fit, that is again the point. Now how the next question has been changed. When you talk about facts and opinions from the same extract, there is a comic strip that has been created. So how do I use a comic strip while teaching? Because अब assessment तो तब कर पाओगे ना जब आपने उनको क्लास में सिखाया भी है वैसा वाला ना. This is only one example. I have to create so many examples. So how do I create that? So how do I have the MCQs that are based on facts and opinions? And how do I frame that comic strip where I put those documents like that? And then I have an options that are clarified to that. वो options कैसे बनना है वो एक अलग issue है that what kind of options should I put in, but however this is of course the standardized one. The next one, अभी this is beyond वाला part जो हमने focus करने का बोला था language में जो specially बोला जा रहा है, how do you explore beyond the text? So I've used a question. Nelson Mandela used two specific words in his inaugural speech: an extraordinary human disaster and glorious a human achievement. What does he mean by that? So when I put up a question like that, what is the cognitive level that I'm expecting? What is the assessment objective that I have? That means I'm expecting the child to write, because I'm not giving the options here. So child is writing the short answer question in 10 to 20 words, each one of them 10 words or one line to explain that what is the difference between the two phrases that are, so how much thinking skills are required in order to associate with the extract in the speech. Why did he use these two words? Okay. Next one, write the character sketch. The writing skills ke liye last time when Vasu was doing the session, many teachers were putting in, there are nothing known as writing skills directly. So you'll have to identify writing skills. Again, CBSE document has identified the writing skills grammar portion also on the document out there. So when you write character sketch of any character in a person, then there is a particular methodology that has to be followed, particular process that has to be followed. Cognitive level kahan hai? Synthesis of personality traits. Can I use the words that describe the personality traits? छोटी क्लासेस में हम सिखाते हैं पहले फिजिकल अपीयरेंस लिखो फिर उसका पर्सनालिटी लिखो. दैट टू थिंग्स दैट वी टेल देम. वो दिखता कैसे हैं, टॉल है, शॉर्ट है, हेयर, आई, दैट फिजिकल डिस्क्रिप्शन. छोटे बच्चों को हम ऐसे सिखाते हैं, बट बड़े बच्चों के लिए probably the description has to be entirely different. So what kind of adjectives, what kind of word power, what kind of grammar skills that they use in order to write. So synthesis of all that you know into brief, crisp, clear points are the writing skills. So it has grammar or writing skills and specific to character sketch. I hope that is going on the lines with the language teachers, but this is only a sample of it. So when we do the next session, probably we'll have. Now, this is again a question, this is the beyond wala part mein hai, because apartheid is not been mentioned out there. So how that is called as one of the harshest and most inhuman societies one has ever known. Elucidate. So cognitive level is exploring beyond the context. Assessment level objective is grammar, writing skills, and thought process. There is another question that came to my mind while in the morning, that how can you compare Nelson Mandela's speech freedom when he spoke the inaugural speech and how Nehru spoke, because we recently celebrated 15th August, Nehru's tryst with destiny. Can you give your teachers, students, the analysis of compare and contrast, find out similarities and differences, because both the countries got freedom after a long tenure of foreign rule. That will be another question that will be related to the grammar skills, exploring synthesis of what you have learned. I know what Nehru said. I know what Nelson Mandela said. Can I really put the whole thing into perspective of comparing and contrasting the two? You can also use an audio-visual tool. You can use a short video of anything. Now, what I have seen, of course, I'll not be able to show it here, but animated video of French Revolution, the causes of that. In just 5 minutes, the person has explained that why it occurred and what all happened in that with total animation. So how you have to find those resources in order to do that. So I think that was all for English language that I had to do. And before I go for the social science, once again, I'm going to stop the sharing. And any questions, language teachers? I hope there's little bit of clarity, not the whole of it, but little bit of clarity on whatever we have done respected to language. Yes, teachers, anything that probably we think we have done constructive work related to how language can be put up into the competency-based assessment. Letter writing will not come into the MCQ examples, ma'am. There you will have to find out the common errors in writing and then make the question, right? Everything will not come into the MCQ part. Please go to the MCQ papers that have been released by CBSE to see that how we have to do the writing part in sometimes as find the errors in that. So when I do the next session starting being launched by CBSE, probably Meenakshi Meenakshi Narula, you are here. आप कोई session छोड़ते भी हो? Okay. ASL questions, ma'am. ASL के question होंगे नहीं, आप बनाएंगे उनको speaking skills, listening skills के. Come on, let's not have all those questions which really put us into a framework that we really have to learn everything from the start. Okay. This is about the social science. Again, I've taken a French Revolution passage, but let me tell you once again, it may not be in continuation. The lines have been compiled together. So once again, I'm telling you that content needs to be identified, relevant ones need to be found out by a teacher in order to understand that मैं question किस type का बना रही हूँ. Then only you can do it. So you have to be very well versed with your own content. So next, the French Revolution is most important for having for most important for having change subjects to citizens. This statement emphasizes the shift from. Now, if you look at the question that has been given to you here, it is not a direct statement at all. मुझे सबका मीनिंग पता होना चाहिए तो तभी मैं एम्फेसाइज शिफ्ट को आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं. So I if because of shortage of time I'm just telling you that this is the option, but before the child can identify this is the option, one has to understand all others, and उससे भी पहले टीचर कैसे बना रही है, that is another point. Which issue was a cause of the French Revolution? In every question you can identify cognitive level, you can identify the assessment objective. Which issue was a cause of French Revolution? I am sure all the teachers would be knowing that, but what questions we make, how do we make, that is over. So this is the demand of third estate. Now the child has to know कि वहाँ पे 3 estates थी. First state, second state, third estate. First में कौन था, second में कौन था, third में क्या था, third को problem क्या थी, what kind of conference was being called by King Louis XVI, and then how it happened that third estate broke out from there and raised that revolution of gaining independence and freedom for them, and what all went on after that is a story for all of us, right? So ये बच्चे को सब पता होगा पहले तभी तो बना पाएंगे वो. Okay, which of the following statements about the French Revolution are correct? So there are 4 statements given. Now before I can say which combinations are correct, I have to understand French Revolution हुआ क्यों, कैसे हुआ. So therefore you have to show videos, short videos, animations, context, visuals, ताकि हम differentiated learning को address कर पाएं. That is why the whole issue is there. I have given the answers also on this thing so that, but then how do you identify that? कंटेंट आएगा तो कुछ करेंगे ना, और बच्चे तब करेंगे जब हमको वो पढ़ाएंगे ना, और पढ़ाने के लिए हम सीखेंगे ना. So upskill yourselves for that. It's a time for all of us. I started my teaching career in 1977. You can imagine all the way how many years have been, and still today I'm a learner. Every document of CBSE or NCRT, I don't know how many times, super teacher and me and Vasudevan and Lokesh team, the whole team has gone over and again to actually compile what the teachers should have the crisp, clear view of. Therefore, I'm sure super teacher deserves that. Now look at a compliment for all of us for that, including me. Okay, now look at the way I have mapped that question to a pie graph. Now, when you do a pie graph, probably one can relate to maths also. So interdisciplinary, हालांकि अभी हम नहीं कर रहे हैं, but interdisciplinary approach, integration of curriculum is another part which NEP 2020 is talking about. So how do you use this? I'm sure the reign of terror, the execution part, the use of guillotine machine, that was something too much to be seen. I'm watching the series, The Tudors. You have to really, I mean, it's ruthless decapitation. Which statement is best supported by information found in the chart? So how do you analyze the statistics of a chart? That is also a part of English language. The passage can be given like this also. आंसर इज दिस वन, बट वन हैज टू नो कि मैंने कैसे निकाला है वहां से. तो मुझे फर्स्ट स्टेट, सेकंड स्टेट, थर्ड स्टेट का पता होना चाहिए. फिर वो उन स्टेट्स की प्रॉब्लम क्या थी, व्हाई वाज थर्ड स्टेट हैविंग ए प्रॉब्लम, व्हाई वाज देयर वाज ए financial crisis, why King Louis XVI had tried to escape, why was he charged for treason, and why was he finally executed. That is the story of French Revolution. Okay. Before the French Revolution, the people of France were divided into three estates, basically main on what. So if we're looking at this graph, I should be able to find out कि वो कौन से level से थे, किसका weightage सबसे ज़्यादा है. तो मुझे interpretation, inference, taking out the information from the concept आना चाहिए. So levels are that. Social class. Identify the leaders of the reign of terror. How many of you know the story of Robespierre and the King Louis XVI? A combination of all of them. Who were Jacobins? बच्चे को सब पता होना चाहिए ना. तो कहानी सुनाइए. Social studies is all about telling stories, telling about showing the videos, showing about the timelines, showing about the impacts, showing about the correlations with what happened and how it changed and brought in the transformation and the rise of nationalism in Europe. जब तक आप उसको कहानी की तरह सुनाएंगे नहीं तो हमें याद नहीं रहेगा. तो याद रखने के लिए उसको इन्वॉल्व होना, इंटरेस्ट होना और उसको दिल से लगाना बहुत जरूरी है. तो एक्सपीरियंस हैज टू बी फेल्ट बाय द हार्ट. इसीलिए हमें शाहरुख की मूवीज याद रहती है ना. तो इसको याद रखने के लिए भी वैसी हमें मूवीज दिखानी पड़ेंगी, छोटी छोटी. So answer was this. This is again paraphrasing. You can give options, you may not give options when you are doing it. However, CBSE is giving options for this kind of answers. I think this is the last question. And here I conclude the session with telling you that step up for Super Teachers program, 8-hour programs with 2 hours every day, starting from 30th of August. And probably me and Vasu will be heading the show for all of you. Looking forward to. If you, my teachers, want to attend your session, please let me know when is your upcoming session. Ma'am, सब कुछ super teacher बताएंगे. Super teacher की team से connect हो जाइए. Very good workshop is all right. Share the link of what workshops. It is already there. Yes, your feedbacks from all of you. It is right on time. We have closed the session. How I wish I would have done the interaction with all of you. But no issues. When we are having more time, we will definitely do that. So. Can we have the mock test in English? Yes, probably Super Teacher team will have to tell you, but they are doing a wonderful job already. So please connect with them. They are the only ones to tell you all the stuff out there. Who else? धन्यवाद से काम ना चलेगा. If you can submit your feedback form or feedback, even the mind map if you have created to Hamara Super Teacher team, we would be happy to share that on our website. We'll be happy to share on our social media platform so that you are also recognized and we are also recognized. Oh, Prem Dubey sir, aap bhi idhar ho. Aha, theek hai. How are you doing, Prem Dubey sir? Okay. Let's have feedback from some of you and let's put ourselves in the gallery format so that I can see some of you. Share the link of this workshop. Sir, आप हमसे दोबारा सीखने आ जाइए. लिंक ही नहीं है, वो सुपर टीचर बता सकते हैं. हमें नहीं मालूम कि किधर क्या है. Yes, Prem Dubey sir, how are you? Unmute yourself and give me the feedback. How are you? Sir, unmute करो और बोलो कुछ. Please unmute yourself. Sushmita, let them have the facility of unmuting. Sushmita, if you are there, super teacher team, anybody there? Super teacher team, anyone there? वो हमारी super teacher team कहाँ गई है? Sairam, please let them unmute themselves. Umesh Sharma ji, thank you so much. I'm happy to see you there. Praveen Kumar ji, how will we get the feedback form? Please, where is my super teacher team? Please put up the form. Lavita ma'am, thank you so much. Sandhya ji, thank you so much. We need more workshops. Please, there'll be workshop to hum kar hi rahe hain, but the session for 4 days that is coming up from 30th of August is something we all need to be part of, so that the whole thing is in continuation for 4 days. 30th August onwards, 4 days. Please join that, and we will be happy to share whatever you are asking for from here. Super teacher, please let them unmute themselves and let's have a feedback from some of them. Sairam, are you there? Please put in the feedback form. People are looking forward for feedback form. दुबे सर आप अनम्यूट नहीं कर सकते हैं क्या? नहीं दिया वरना क्लोज कर. Please, super teacher Sairam, unmute.